I was at a business dinner in Seoul with a visiting American executive. Our Korean host was very subtly trying to signal that the executive's proposal was not feasible. The American, completely missing the nonverbal cues and polite deflections, just got louder. Finally, he slammed his hand on the table and said, "Look, just give me a yes or a no. This whole maybe we will see thing is so inefficient. In America, we value directness." You could feel the entire room freeze. Our Korean host just gave a tight smile and said, "Your directness is very American." The deal did not go through. My family hosted an American exchange student in Slovenia. On his second day, he proudly announced he'd done extensive research on our country. He then asked, "So when are we going to Bratislava?" I read, "It's the capital and it's beautiful." We had to gently explain that Bratislava is the capital of Slovakia. He got defensive, insisting his map app must be broken. For the next week, he kept referring to everything as Slovakian and asked if the reason we separated from the Czech Republic was because we were jealous of Prague's architecture. Working in a famous bakery in Lisbon, I watched an American tourist take a bite of a fresh pastel di nata. He chewed thoughtfully for a moment before calling me over. "This is pretty good," he said. "But you know what would make it a 10? A big scoop of peanut butter right in the middle. You guys should really try that. It would be a game changer." The 80-year-old owner, who was standing nearby, looked at the man as if he had just suggested setting fire to the flag. The tourist then asked if we had any Skippy in the back he could use. My Finnish friend invited his American cousin to a traditional sauna. Before they went in, the American asked where the controls for the steam intensity and mood lighting were. My friend explained, "You just throw water on the rocks." Inside, the American refused to take off his swim trunks, saying he didn't want to be indecent. He then proceeded to complain that it was too quiet and asked if they could play some music, suggesting Taylor Swift. He lasted about 3 minutes before running out, yelling that it was a health and safety violation and that OSHA would shut this place down in a heartbeat. During a cultural presentation at a university in New Zealand, a Maui group performed a powerful traditional haka. It was intense and deeply moving. Afterward, during the Kwanda, an American student raised his hand and asked, "That was really cool, but is that your only mascot? In the US? Our college football teams have like a whole variety of mascots and cheerleading routines. It feels like you guys could really expand your brand if you developed a few more characters. Maybe something cuddly to appeal to the kids." The silence that followed was deafening. I witnessed an American couple watching a passionate tango performance in a square in Buenos Aires. The dancers were a whirlwind of emotion and skill. After the dance finished, the American man turned to his wife and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "They have great synergy, but I'm not sure what their key performance indicators are. The ROI on that much dramatic staring seems low." He then tried to give one of the dancers his business card, telling him he was a management consultant who could help them optimize their workflow. While guiding a tour through the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, a tourist from Texas was staring intently at a wall of hieroglyphs. I was explaining their meaning when he interrupted me. "So these are basically just ancient emojis, right?" he asked. I tried to explain. It was a complex written language, but he wasn't listening. Okay, I get it," he said, pointing at a symbol. "But which one is the poop emoji? They must have had one, say, right? It's like a universal concept." He seemed genuinely disappointed when I couldn't point one out. An American engineering student was visiting the Netherlands and was fascinated by the complex system of dikes and canals. A Dutch engineer was explaining the centuries of innovation that went into their water management. The American listened patiently and then said, "You know, a much simpler solution would have been to just build a bunch of giant cork plugs. You could just plug the holes where the ocean comes in. Did you guys ever think of that?" The Dutch engineer just stared at him for a long moment, before slowly saying, "We will take that under advisement." In my sociology class at a university in Delhi, we were discussing the history of the caste system. An American study abroad student trying to relate said, "Oh, I get it. So it's basically like high school cliques, right? You have the Brahins who are like the jocks and the dots are like the nerds, or the Goths? Yeah, we had that back in Ohio. The professor had to stop the class to explain how his comparison of a system of hereditary social stratification with teenage social groups was not only incorrect, but deeply offensive. My Swedish friend was telling his American visitor about their social safety net. High taxes and government services. The American looked increasingly concerned. He pulled my friend aside with a grave expression and whispered, "Listen, man. You don't have to live like this. I have friends in the States. We can get you out. We can sponsor your green card. You can escape this communist nightmare and come to a free country." My friend had to spend an hour explaining that he was perfectly happy and did not, in fact, need to be rescued from his high standard of living. I was working the front desk at a hotel in Iceland during a winter storm. An American guest came down furious that his Northern Lights tour was canceled due to the blizzard. "This is unacceptable," he yelled. "I paid to see the lights. Can't you just turn them on from here? Or call someone to turn them on? I have a non-refundable ticket. In America, the customer is always right." He could not comprehend that the aurora borealis was a natural phenomenon and not a pre-scheduled light show we could control from the hotel lobby. Overheard in a crowded market in Istanbul, an American tourist was trying to haggle for a lamp. The vendor gave him a price. The American countered with a ridiculously low offer. The vendor politely declined. The American then said, "Look, I'm doing you a favor. This is the free market at work. It's called capitalism. You should be thanking me for teaching you how it works." The vendor, whose family had been merchants in that same market for over 200 years, just sighed and started talking to another customer. A young American backpacker was in a Buddhist temple in Chiang Mai, Thailand. He saw monks meditating and decided to join them. He sat down, pulled out his phone, put on huge headphones, and started listening to a podcast at a very audible volume. A monk approached him and gestured for him to be quiet. The American took off his headphones and said, "What?" "It's a self-help podcast. I'm meditating on how to be a better entrepreneur. Isn't that the whole point of this place, self-improvement?" My cousin in rural Ireland was talking to an American tourist who was tracing his ancestry. The tourist said, "It's so beautiful here, but so tragic." I read all about the potato famine. It's just crazy that it happened. My cousin nodded sadly. The tourist then continued, "But I have to ask, why didn't they just switch to corn or import some from Mexico? In the U.S., we have tons of corn. It seems like a massive oversight on their part. They could have just made tortillas." I was on a train in Switzerland passing through the stunning Alps. An American family was sitting across from me. The teenage son was glued to his phone. His mother said, "Honey, look at the mountains." The son glanced up for a second and said, "They're okay, but the resolution is not as good as my video game, and there's no dragons or anything. It's kind of boring." His father nodded in agreement, adding, "Yeah, and the Wi-Fi on this train is terrible." How can you appreciate nature without being able to post it on Instagram? An American was visiting a historic pub in London that was founded in the 1600s. He ordered a beer and then complained to the bartender that it wasn't cold enough. "Can you put some ice in it?" he asked. The bartender politely explained that they don't typically put ice in ale. The Americans scoffed. "That's your problem right there. You guys have been making beer for centuries, and you never figured out that it's better cold. We figured that out in a day. It's called innovation. You should write that down." At a memorial site for the Berlin Wall, I saw an American tourist taking a selfie while laughing. A German man standing nearby looked upset and said something to him in German. The American turned to his friend and said, "I don't know what he's so mad about. It's just a wall. We're building a bigger, better one back home, and everyone loves it. This is like a historical tourist attraction now. People need to lighten up and focus on the positive." My friend was a park ranger in B National Park, Canada. He had to rescue an American tourist who had gone hiking in flip-flops and shorts, despite signs everywhere warning of bears and cold weather. When my friend found him shivering, The tourist said, "I didn't think the warnings were serious. I thought it was just, a suggestion. In the US, a park is a safe space. If there was real danger, they wouldn't let people in. This is a huge liability issue for you guys." My friend was teaching English in Japan. One of his American students was struggling with the concept of bowing. He refused to do it, saying, "In America, we look people in the eye and give them a firm handshake. This bowing thing is subservient. I'm not going to bow to anyone. It's a matter of personal freedom and equality." He couldn't grasp that it was a sign of respect, not submission, and spent the entire semester giving his confused Japanese teachers aggressive handshakes. An American couple was on a food tour in Mexico City. They were served authentic mole, a complex sauce with dozens of ingredients. The wife tasted it, made a face, and said, "Does this have chocolate in it?" "That's disgusting. Chocolate is for dessert. You can't just put it on chicken. It's unnatural. Can I just get some ranch dressing instead, or maybe some ketchup?" The chef, who had spent 8 hours making the sauce, had to be physically restrained by his staff. I was on a bus tour in Scotland, and we stopped at the beautiful, mysterious Loch Ness. An American tourist stared out at the water for a few minutes with a disappointed look on her face. She then asked the tour guide, "So, what time does the monster come out? Is there a set schedule? We have a dinner reservation at 7, so I'm hoping it's before then. We paid for the monster tour, and we haven't seen a single monster yet. This feels like a bit of a scam." An American was visiting the Vatican and was amazed by the Sistine Chapel. He stared at the ceiling for a while and then asked the guard, "So, who was Michelangelo's agent? He must have been amazing to get him a gig this big. I'm in marketing and I'd love to know his strategy. Did he have a big social media following back then?" The guard, a stoic Swiss guard, did not even blink as he told the man to please be quiet. In a cafe in Vienna, I overheard an American telling his friends, "I don't get why they're so proud of all these classical composers like Mozart. He's okay, I guess, but his music has no words. It's just a bunch of violins. How can you even tell what the song is about?" It's not like Taylor Swift where she's telling you a real story about her ex-boyfriends. That's real art. A tourist from California was in a small fishing village in Greece. He saw the fishermen bringing in their daily catch. He approached one of them and said, "This is a great authentic setup you have here. But have you ever considered franchising? You could create a whole Greek fisherman experience. Brand! We could set up a chain of these in malls across America. You'd make a killing." The old fisherman just looked at his net, then at the sea, and said nothing. My professor told us about a time he was at an academic conference in Jordan. An American colleague visiting the Middle East for the first time looked at the Arabic script on a sign and said, "Wow, their cursive is really messy. It's like they're all doctors. Why don't they just type everything out in a normal font like Times New Roman so people can actually read it? It seems very impractical for business." An American family was visiting the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. After a guided hike, the father complained to the guide, "It was okay, but the whole thing felt very disorganized. There were no paved trails, no proper signage, and the animals were just wherever. At Disney's Animal Kingdom, everything is perfectly laid out, and you're guaranteed to see the animals. You guys could learn a lot from them about customer experience." I was in a cheese shop in rural France. An American tourist sampled a piece of strong-aged Roquefort. He immediately rekeeled and exclaimed, "Whoa, this cheese is expired. It's got mold all over it. You shouldn't be selling this. It's a health hazard. I'm going to have to report you to the FDA." He then demanded a refund for the free sample he had just eaten. An American student in my Italian history class in Florence was confused about the Medici family. "So let me get this straight," he said to the professor. "The Medicis were like the Kardashians of their time. They were super rich and famous for no real reason, and they sponsored a bunch of artists to make them look good. It's basically the same thing, right?" The professor just put his head in his hands. A tourist was visiting the DMZ between North and South Korea. He looked across the border at the North Korean soldiers and then asked the South Korean soldier guiding the tour, "So, why don't you guys just get along? Have you tried a team-building exercise or maybe a company picnic in my office when two departments are fighting? We do a trust fall and it solves everything. You should suggest that at your next meeting." I was at a museum in Athens looking at the Elgian marbles. An American next to me said to his son, "See? This is what happens when you don't have a good security system. And the British just walked in and took all their best stuff. That's why in America, our museums have lasers and motion detectors. Nobody is stealing our history." He seemed to think the lesson was about museum security, not the complexities of cultural heritage and colonialism. An American exchange student living in Spain was complaining about the siesta. "I don't get it," she said. "The whole country just shuts down for 3 hours in the middle of the day. It's so unproductive. We could be making money or doing something useful. In America, we have power naps and energy drinks. We don't need to shut down civilization just because people are a little sleepy. It's a fundamentally flawed economic model." I was working at a hostel in Prague when an American guest came to the desk to complain. "My power adapter doesn't work," he said. I looked and saw he had a standard American plug. I explained he needed a European converter. He looked at me bewildered and said, "Why, this is 2024. Why doesn't the whole world just use the same plugs? It's so inefficient. We should have a global vote, and I'm pretty sure the American plug would win. It's just better." An American tourist was at the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. After a snorkeling trip, he told the boat captain, "It was very colorful, but I was disappointed that I didn't see Nemo or Dory. My kids were really looking forward to it. Do they live in a different part of the reef? Can you take us there tomorrow? We'll pay extra to see the celebrity fish." The captain had to explain that the characters from Finding Nemo were not in fact real.